So today we're going to read a story from the Word about baptism. And one of the things about baptism is from the most ancient times, from way back as far as we can go, people have understood that things that are clean are good, and things that are dirty are bad. So if you have a piece of candy and you're out in the playground and it's delicious, and then you drop it in the sand, and now it's got sand all over it, it's no good anymore. You need to clean it, don't you? It's not good anymore. So we know that even if we have things that get dirty, like our clothes or something like we drop on the ground, there are ways that we can actually make it clean again. We can wash it off. So dirty things can become clean if you wash them. Now, this is something that the Lord used when he was in the world to teach us about how we can live a better life and get ourselves ready for heaven. We start off, we're all wonderful people and children, but sometimes we do things that aren't right. Sometimes we break the rules. Sometimes we do things that are mean. So we start off being clean, but those things make our minds dirty. And we have to get rid of those things. We can wash them away and have a clean heart and a clean mind by thinking about these things and washing them. But if we just wash our hands, that doesn't really fix what's going on in our head, does it? If we just wash the thing, we have to figure out a different way. So in the church, we do something that's to remind us of something. It's a symbol, we call it. And we do this. It's called baptism. And I brought the bowl out. What we do is a symbol of being able to change our lives. Nice, beautiful bowl, isn't it? And what we do is we put water in it. And what happens is people come up when they want to change their lives. And we put some water in it. And instead of dipping them in a river or whatever, or giving them a bath or taking a shower or something like that, we take my hand in, I put a little bit of water, we just touch the person on the head, because that's where your mind is. And the idea is you take some water from here and you wash it. And it's a way of saying, I promise that I'm going to try and do better. I'm going to try and wash that sand off my candy. I'm going to try and get that meanness out of my heart. I'm going to get that wrong thought out of my head. I promise. So we have this nice bowl. It's a symbol. It doesn't really fix you, but it's a way of saying, I promise to try. I promise to try to live better. Where did that come from? Why do we do that? Well, like most things in the church, we did it because that's what the Lord did when he was in the world. When the Lord was I guess not really a young man, but when he was about 30 years old, he went to a man who was called John the Baptist. And John the Baptist was a fellow. Remember the story of Elizabeth and Zacharias from Christmas? This boy was born, and he was going to be the one who would make way for the Lord. And he was out there. He was down by the river, and people were coming up and saying, I feel bad about my life. What can I do? And he says, you need to start new. You need to get clean. And he'd take them in the river, and he'd wash them in the river. So he was called John the Baptist, because he was doing this. He was baptizing them in the river. And even the Lord, when he was in the world, when he was ready to begin his ministry, he came to John and said, you need to wash me. Well, John knew who he was. He said, oh, no, I can't do that. He said, yes, please. Please do it. Please do it anyhow. It's a good way to start. So I'm going to read to you, here's a little bit from the Gospel of Matthew. It says, then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. And John tried to stop him, saying, no, I need to be baptized by you, and here you are coming to me. But Jesus said to him, permit it to be so, for this is fitting for us to be righteous. The Lord knew that this was something that was important to do. John didn't always understand what was going on. He was just being obedient. The Lord said, no, it's okay. You can do this. And he allowed him. And so, it doesn't say this, but the Lord went down into the river And John washed him with the river water. It says, then he allowed him. And when he'd been baptized, Jesus came up immediately from the water, and behold, the heavens were opened to him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting upon him. And a voice came from heaven saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. What an amazing thing. So that's what the Lord did. He said, it was John's special job to get people ready for the Lord, and he did it by teaching that they needed to get their lives in order. They needed to stop breaking the 10 Commandments. That's all he was asking them to do. He said, stop breaking the 10 Commandments. And they'd wait out, and we don't know whether he dunked them under the water or whether he just splashed water on them, or maybe he had a bowl. Maybe he just picks them up, put them on his head. We don't know. But it's important to know that they did this as a symbol of wanting to change their lives for the better, for looking at themselves and saying, there's some things I should do better. There's some things I need to be helpful with. But of course, the Lord was a special case because he was already clean, right? But he'd been living in the world for 30 years. There were things that he'd experienced or learned from his friends and family. And those were things he realized, no, those are false ideas that I picked up from my friends. I need to somehow symbolically get rid of them so I can start my ministry fresh. And so he did this. This was the scene, the symbol that he used. So he started his work by being baptized by John to put things in his preparation behind him and start his ministry fresh and clean. So this is a sign for us that this is a right thing for us to do. Whether or not we use water or whether or not we do this all the time, we don't baptize each other all the time. We only do it once in our lifetime. But we can remember what it means. That's why we do this. It's something that we do that we can, it's a touch, a real thing. It's like signing a contract or writing something down to make it real. It's not just an idea. We actually wash ourselves a little bit to get ready. And when the Lord did it, there was a voice from heaven saying he was the Son of God. And what was that? Was that for John? Was that for him? It was probably for everyone to hear. Clearly a sign that this was something amazing that was about to begin and never been seen in the world before or after. So that's why we do it. And the purpose of this is to remember that even things that are dirty can be made clean. Even mistakes that we make can be fixed. We just need to remember that with the Lord's help, these things can happen. And that's why we do baptism. And that's why the Lord was baptized in the world. And that's what we can think about today. So